Pledge of allegiance, and then we'll do a roll call. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Ms. Cruz, if you will go ahead and certification of quorum and roll call, please.
Town of Ashland, Ms. Barnhart. Goochland County, Mr. Lyle. New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Here.
Charles City County, Mr. Patterson.
Present.
Hanover County, Mr. Davis. Powhatan County, Mr. Kinney. Chesterfield County, Ms. Schneider.
Here.
Henrico County, Chair Rogish.
Here.
City of Richmond, Dr. Newbill.
Here.
And Goochland County, Mr. Lyle, welcome. So yes, we do have a quorum.
Yay, me.
Excellent.
I can leave.
Wow.
Well, we have
You're
things
locked
to
in.
assign to you, sir.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a minute. There's no one that has requested to join remotely, is there, that I'm aware of? No, okay. Any considerations to the amendment to the agenda? Seeing none, and this is a public meeting. Is there anyone that would like to address the executive committee from the public? Closing public comments, thank you. We have two exciting approval of minutes. We have the last meeting from March the 5th. We also have the October 2nd meeting minutes, but we did not have a quorum last time to approve those. So the meeting minutes are in your packet. And I do need a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the past two sessions. Moved by Mr. Moyer. Seconded by Dr. Newbill.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting minutes for the past two meetings are approved. Thank you all. Moving right along to the FY27 work program priorities, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Schickel.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have included the work program linked in the policy board meeting packet for this morning. I'm going to hit a couple of the highlights and invite Miles also to chime in where appropriate.
I'm sorry, can you, the
large-
page in the large packet is,
It's linked at the back of your large packet. So there's a memo, which is what I'll be referring to this morning, right at the back of the page. It's labeled item D2. And this is the discussion overview of the UPWP. UPWP is our Unified Planning Work Program. It's the name that Federal Highway and FTA give to the schedule of activities and programming of grant dollars that are available from Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. So that's why it's called Unified. It's two funding streams coming together to support the work of our organization. And in this particular fiscal year, it's actually three funding streams because we've also included that special grant, the prioritization pilot program grant. And so from kind of hitting the highlights of the work program, as you know, we are in the throes of adopting or developing the update to the long range transportation plan. At this morning's policy board meeting, Dorian Allen is going to give an update about that with a milestone action item for you all in that. But we are scheduled and have included in the work program for next fiscal year to complete the update of the 2050 long range transportation plan, and that'll be scheduled for your review for adoption, consideration of adoption at our September meeting. Thank you. In addition to that, we have continued to prioritize and emphasize transportation safety in the work program as a kind of a key deliverable. And so our staff will continue the efforts that were initiated this year in working through activities that can seek to address various strategies to address the less than favorable outcomes relative to pedestrian safety in the region. And so we have completed a white paper this fiscal year that will be translated into action for next fiscal year to be able to move that work forward. Examples of things that we are contemplating in addition to just prioritizing safety for the transportation infrastructure investments that the policy board makes. Also looking at, from a programmatic perspective, how can we incorporate safety into a communications narrative across the region? How do we, sort of elevate the conversation about safety across the region, working with various partners, media, and other types of community engagement and outreach activities. Similarly, we continue to focus on the policy board's priority focused on multimodal transportation. And so really thinking about how we activate all of our transportation infrastructure across all modes, whether that's continuing our work on active transportation. We know this in the community as things like the Fall Line Trail, the Capitol Trail, the Lower Appomattox Trail. Earlier this fiscal year, you adopted a plan around spines and spurs across the region. And so we're continuing to do that work with our localities to put that regional vision for trails into action to be able to identify the opportunities for that. Similarly, from a modality perspective, freight and transit are also active players in that. And so Dorian, who leads the long range transportation plan update, once we adopt that later this calendar year, he'll be able to move into kind of the modal shift to move into freight planning and looking at that more intensely. And then we'll continue to work on our transit work with our partners across the region, both our local providers that are operating service out of the localities, but also our transit providers in GRTC and Bay Transit to really think about what a truly connected transit system looks like across the region with those different providers. And as you all know, we've been active this year with GRTC and hope to become more active with those other operators to look at the cost of transit service delivery, what the impacts post-COVID have been, what the federal funding landscape for transit and how that's evolving, and then what do we do to effectively fill the hole that we're projecting for transit operations in the future. So kind of a lot in that bucket of the multimodal work. And then, as you know, in February, we had our federal certification with Federal Highway and FTA. We are awaiting the follow-up communication. As you know, we received our certification letter, so the MPO has been recertified, but it is common and has been indicated to us that we will receive a more formal communication that outlines observations that the team had of our program performance and compliance over the last 3 years. And so they have indicated that we should get that around the 1st of May. So, we're kind of waiting. It is possible that depending on what's included in that communication, there may need to be some adjustments to the UPWP. They are aware that the UPWP is on the schedule for consideration for approval this morning. And we have a provision for an amendment process if we need to make adjustments to the work to accommodate anything. Miles has done, I think, a really great job of coordinating with the folks at VDOT and DRPT, who have been able to give us some indications of things that they think Federal Highway is interested in seeing. So we've unofficially incorporated, well, I shouldn't say unofficially, we've incorporated those intuitions into the UPWP, and assuming that it's going to be part of the communication, but we don't have that kind of formally yet. So we've done kind of the best we can, I think, in anticipating what those would be. And just to not be cryptic, the recommendations are things like we heard from Federal Highway verbally that they'd like to see in the plan more clarity about if you endeavor to adopt the long range transportation plan, when over the course of the year do you endeavor to do that? So that there's a little bit more specificity of when in the fiscal year will X milestone happen. So he's incorporated that into the UPWP. Not that hard, not that not that onerous of a request. So we were happy to do that. Another example is the guidance that we got verbally is that if we intend to use the grant funds to support attendance at various professional development conferences, they'd like to have a list of those candidate conferences at the beginning of the year instead of just sort of ad hoc as we go. So we assembled a list of those events and activities that our staff typically attend so that it's there on the front end of the work program. So again, frankly, not very substantial things that we made edits to over the last week and a half or so in that feedback. And so, again, the UPWP will include it. I'll walk my way through those 4 sort of priority areas for the UPWP in this morning's policy board meeting and conclude with an update that the technical advisory committee did review the UPWP and has recommended your approval this morning of that document.
So any questions from the executive board? It is, just looking through it, it's 48 pages, is that roughly, is that correct? Yeah, and it does list, the accomplishments and the priorities for next year. But again, the goal is to make sure that we're on a unified, hence the name.
Yeah.
UW, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Last page. Oh, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Lau.
I was just on the prioritizing safety. I have to confess that the pedestrian safety is not a huge blip on the radar out in Goochland. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. We did just install a crosswalk.
Oh.
So we
Got one.
so we can get to our farmer's market from the parking lot. But, it is helpful, and I understand that Henrico did have some pedestrian challenges. You're even giving out vests now, I think, to address that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for helping raise my awareness that I'm a runner and we don't have shoulders or sidewalks out where I run. So is there a breakdown as to how our safety is pedestrian versus vehicular?
From a metrics perspective?
Yes, ma'am. Are we
Yes.
losing more people to pedestrian accidents or to cars?
Miles, do you want to speak to that? Yeah.
Yeah, so it is more primarily through vehicles in absolute numbers, but I think what we've seen over the past couple of years is that the percentage of crashes that are fatal that are involving pedestrians is climbing. So I think it was about 1/3 of the fatal crashes last year were pedestrian related crashes. So that number is going up. Well, on the whole, our numbers are going down, like across the region. So if you look at like a 10-year trend,
Yes.
the number of fatalities is trending downward.
Good.
But if you look at pedestrians, it's going up. So that's where that became a focus area for us across the region.
This is all anecdotal, but I mean, screen zombies, I think they call them. People are just, and I'm probably singular people have walked into me as they've been looking at their screen and thinking I'm a telephone pole or something, but I mean, distraction. So I don't know, as we look at safety messaging, it really is distracted walking as well as distracted driving that we might want to emphasize, but that's anecdotal on my part. But thank you for
Yeah.
making pedestrian. It helped me.
Yes, Mr. Schneider.
I mean, I know you laugh, we celebrate crosswalks just as much. We just had one last night that we celebrated because again, I mean, the county was not built with that type of infrastructure. And so having to add those things in after costs so much more. And the programming it's.
Ours was $57,000.
And that's the thing. I mean, so we're putting one in an older neighborhood right now. I think we just talked about it was $157,000
Whoa.
to put in a crosswalk. And so, I think that's just I just part of the problem with not planning ahead with infrastructure like that and the cost of even sidewalks. I think it's like $1 million a mile to add sidewalk. And so everybody says, well, why do you have builders put in sidewalk that goes nowhere? Well, because that's less sidewalk that we would have to fill in if we need, build ourselves I just had an email from some high school students saying, hey, can you add more bike lanes? Just last night. I mean, they just would like to be more environmentally conscious and ride their bikes to school, but there's no way of doing it safely. And so, yeah. It's not just you guys.
Well, the good news is it is in our, it's listed as one of our priorities as a region, and it's good to hear that everyone is focusing on the same
Absolutely.
same thing. So
Don't have enough words to say thank
Yeah.
you for including it, given.
so we don't need any action.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I do want to say one more thing, that I wasn't planning to emphasize in the full policy board meeting, but Miles, again, I want to call on you to just broad brush talk about the funding levels. We did encounter a reduction in funding through Federal Highway Administration. There was a slight uptick in funding through FTA. So that's an a different occurrence than we have typically been accustomed to. We call it the PL, the public law funding through FHWA has traditionally been sort of a modest uptick. On the whole, the budget for the UPWP doesn't look like it's in a decline because we have the 4P project prioritization pilot program grant as well. But that's a one-time funding source that just goes for 24 to 36 months now. And so I want to just sort of flag that we have inquired with our partners at VDOT and didn't really get a clear answer as to why. The information we have from reading and reviewing the appropriations would have suggested that MPOs across Virginia would have received the expected increase that we're, I'm talking like 2%, but that did not occur. And the response from VDOT was simply, that's the allocation. So I just want to flag it for members of the policy board committee. We're fine. We have the funding sufficient to do the work that we need. I am grateful that it happened in the fiscal year after kind of a big year of large deliverables, but it's something that we will be monitoring and, keeping you apprised of. From a, overall agency budget perspective, it's not an immediate concern, but it does raise some flags for me about, kind of, is this the beginning of something we need to be thoughtful about? So Miles, I don't know if you want to give some specifics about the numbers.
Yeah, so on the FHWA side, on the PL side, it was about a 5% reduction year over year, which in and of itself isn't that much, but on top of that, we've also been better at using our funding every year, so we didn't have as much carryover funding coming into the mix at the same time. So that sort of compounded the issue that we already knew we were going to have slightly less with the carryover, but then a 5% drop in the baseline as well. So
we're level.
With the P-Quad money, we were able to offset all of those losses. So with that extra grant, we were able to offset the reduction in the sort of dedicated MPO funding. But without that, I think the net change was around 400,000 less year over year.
All right.
And we don't have a great explanation, from
No,
VDOT.
we and the state association both pushed, and the response back, I believe, from central office was, those were the numbers. Literally, that was the email.
So is that something that's programmed, are those dollars that it's coming from the top, from federal dollars that they're getting allocated, and then it's like
It's
a rolling down a hill?
It's a formula program. And so, following the census, which we're not really, 2026 is arguably a year following the census. There are metropolitan planning organizations across the country that might get enrolled in the program. So, the federal appropriations are a fixed dollar amount, and then the distribution is by formula across all of the eligible MPOs based on population fluctuation. So it's a moving target on any given year, depending on what the sort of baseline data and those factors. So while nationally there was not a reduction in funding, a stable level of funding at the federal level with more regions eligible, is the distribution is going to be different across the country. So it appears that all of Virginia did receive a reduction, as Miles was describing. It's a little varied region to region because, again, it's a by formula program. So we experienced our reductions differently, but we all got a reduction.
I wonder if that's.
So it's like a calculus equation that I don't,
Yeah.
that Virginia isn't necessarily privy to, since it's a national program. I think, with the context of federal reauthorization and the likelihood that that's not going to get any traction before the congressional midterms, we're in a holding pattern right now. And our national association, AMPO, does a really good job of tracking the federal landscape and sort of interpreting it for us on the ground. And so we follow that closely and we rely heavily on that guidance. If the transportation reauthorization goes through, kind of as some of the draft language has been advanced through the LOC Coalition, which is a big coalition of National Association of Counties, National League of Cities, AMPO, National Association of Development Organizations, National Association of Regional Councils. There's a huge coalition. I think in all honesty, federal funding for local and regional planning will increase, but we just don't know yet. There's a lot of uncertainty about what will happen after the midterms. So we're just monitoring and tracking. So no need for any concern right now, but I just wanted to let everybody know about the shift in the funding as we, think about future fiscal years.
Let the next chair deal with that. Thank you. Ms. Schickel.
Next item.
Mr.
Strike that.
Chairman, one more. I heard Ms. Schickel say that, I don't know what to call them, our auditors, wanted to know the training and conferences. That's not for them to approve. That's just informational on their part. Is that
No,
correct?
sir. We do have to have approval before anybody attends
All right.
an event
okay.
that we will use those funding, those dollars to support. So it's a approval of expenditure of funds, not an approval to attend the conference, but the two are inherently linked because if we don't have approval to spend the money, we're not gonna send the person.
Okay, all right. So
They are listed in the very end of the conferences are listed at the very end of the UFI plan.
is that a lengthy approval process? I mean,
No, there's a form that we fill out and send and via email, and it's typically turned around within, 2 to 3 days.
okay,
We're in pretty much daily communication with our friends at VDOT and DRPT, so
Okay.
they do a good job of turning around requests like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Schickel, do you want to review the meeting dates, the officer rotation?
Sure. Sarah Keel sent out a note about this, and so if you'll tell me if I'm wrong, Sarah Keel, at the back of your executive committee packet, you see a list of meeting dates.
It's on the back page.
Is this
This is
updated?
updated. So it was originally the 3rd, and we switched it. And then
This says the 3rd.
December 3rd. Mine says the 10th.
Oh, I have an old copy.
okay.
I got it last week.
I was
Never
like,
mind.
wait
Sorry.
a minute.
I printed my. your
September
copy's
10th.
right.
It should say September
Yeah, it should
10th.
say
Yeah.
September 10th and December 10th.
December 10th.
The
Yes.
schedule for the policy board meetings for next fiscal year is on the back of your packet. July 2nd, September 10th, November 5th, December 10th, February 4th, March 4th, April 29th. Is that the list you have? Okay, great.
Yes.
It's just me that's wrong. This is the revised schedule based on the Planning District Commission's action last week to adopt their schedule. We made some adjustments. And so this would be the schedule that's on the calendar for both the executive committee to take action on this morning for your meetings and the policy board in the full policy board meeting to take action on. So if you all are amenable to it, I think by consensus, we can agree to the schedule. I don't think we need to take a motion.
Yeah, and the dates, we did work around public school spring break. The July 2nd date, just kind of everybody make sure on your calendar, that is the day before a long
Yeah.
July 4th weekend. So just making sure that we have enough folks for that day, but
Yes, and we would really ask that if you see challenges on your calendars, the sooner letting us know the better so that we can work to reschedule. We know that there are events that happen around the region and we try really hard to avoid those things. But we just don't always know, for example, In Unison has a big event every year that honors our public safety officials and the date's just not published yet. It's in November a lot of times. And so we try to keep our eye on these kinds of things, but it just, sometimes we do have to make adjustments to the schedule over the course of the year. But that's the calendar for that. And then I think the next update you'd like me to give on.
the officer rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll kick this off, but the rotation, again, we rotate between counties, jurisdictions, cities for chair, vice chair, et cetera. And Our gracious friend from New Kent has agreed to become the chair for next year. And that would, so thank you, Mr. Moore, for that. With the rotation, I think there was an email that would go to the vice chair of Goochland County. So the recommendation would be that Mr. Lyle from Goochland County, if he would accept to be the vice chair.
Be careful what you ask for.
Exactly. So,
But yes, I'm in Rotary and the answer is always yes when someone asks you to serve.
excellent, sir. Thank you very much. So we have I think the rotation, and that it does skip a few jurisdictions, et cetera, but just because of different priorities of availability, I'm sorry that it would go to New Kent, then Goochland, and then after that is
Yeah, I knew you'd ask me that.
Chesterfield or Hanover, or I think.
It'll go back to New Canaan. Okay.
Go back to New Canaan. But anyways, we'll get that information. So thank you, Mr. Moyer on the chair for next year. So.
Be Hanover.
Hanover, yeah.
Hanover, yeah.
Hanover than Chesterfield, so in the rotation.
In 29, yeah, FY 29.
Long ways away. Okay, with that, we do have an extremely packed agenda. Is that anything else from the executive? Make sure I'm okay. That's all for the agenda. Just, do you want to walk through just quickly, Ms. Schickel? We have a very packed agenda for the policy board at 9:30. So if you could just maybe walk us through real quick.
Sure. The consent agenda items are fairly straightforward. There's, globally speaking, I'll say there's a lot of titling of actions in this agenda that kind of repeat themselves. So as an example, I think you see conformity, that's included in the consent agenda, item 6B. That shows up 2 other times in the agenda. It's because we're in this stage of our planning work where things, we're wrapping up things related to certain planning endeavors and we're starting new on others. And so you kind of see that in different phases and stages of the MPO's planning cycle. So conformity for the consent agenda is a report on achieved conformity. When you hear Dorian talk about it on section B1 in conjunction with the update of the transportation plan, the long range transportation plan, it's conformity of future projects. And then when you hear me talk about conformity in the self-certification, it's a self-certification that the MPO is compliant with the conformity requirements. So it's sort of 3 different stages of the same requirement from a compliance perspective, but I guess 3 different angles, if you will. Similarly, we're seeing the same thing with our transportation improvement program, the TIP. We have 1 item on the consent agenda for the TIP amendment. There is, it's a pretty straightforward action. It's an amendment of an existing project that's already on the TIP and just adjusting that. The TIP amendments that we'll present in section C are also, C1 is an amendment, also pretty straightforward. He'll walk through the capital and operating components of those TIP amendments, but they are also pretty straightforward. I think all but 1 or 2, thank you, are existing projects that are already on the TIP with just adjustments to the funding. And the other one we'll describe as a new project, but again, pretty straightforward. And those are all at the request of DRPT as a follow-up to the 5307 and 5310 funding decisions. Item C2 is the new TIP adoption. So if you look at 1 and 2 kind of together, the amendments are relative to the FY 24 to 27 TIP. So think about that as like your local government capital improvement plan that's the current CIP. Item 2 is adoption of your new CIP for looking forward. So that's kind of why they're on there twice and why they are the way that. Similarly, we'll then go into our flexible funding. So that's our CMAC, STBG,
STBG, Surface Transportation Block Grant.
Thank you. Mr. Lyle, I call things by the old acronyms, not the new acronyms, so sorry for that.
Both of them are meaningless.
Either
Air
one.
quality and surface transportation. So we'll walk you through those. These are again fiscal year 27 to 32. So these are, looking forward, project selections for funds to be allocated to projects. So this is where we're making projects come out of a plan and they get real with funding attached to them. And then Phil will talk through transportation and alternatives project selection. So it's yet again a different pot of money that the MPO is responsible for allocating relative to active transportation mostly. And as the name suggests, transportation alternatives are those investments that are not maybe the typical highway investment projects. And then finally, GRTC is on the agenda in item 5 to submit their public transportation plan. This is a requirement under Virginia code that GRTC must coordinate with the MPO to develop their transportation plan that gets submitted to the CBTA for use of the 15% tax revenue allocation set aside. So this is a step in that process after the public transportation plan advances from the TPO. It ultimately is the CBTA's responsibility to approve that plan. So we are a consultation step in that process.
So 15% comes off, goes to GRTC from CBTA, but they have to coordinate the plan with
Yeah.
us.
We've, at the CBTA and the Finance Committee, we've delayed them from presenting their plan because there was no reason to, because this board or the full board needs to see it first, then comes to CBTA.
Right.
So I understand the step here. That's
Great.
good.
Great. I'll go backwards up the agenda. Item 7 in section A is we will be welcoming Maria Zimmerman this morning. She's the director, our newly appointed director of Department of Rail and Public Transit. So she'll be giving some just sort of welcome, remarks. She's a native of this region and knows our organization well. So, she's happy to be here with us this morning and do her kind of what's going on with DRPT. There's actually a lot of activity happening right now just because of where they are with the preparing for the new fiscal year. But she'll talk with us a little bit about that. And I think that would be a great opportunity to ask questions about sort of where she sees, things from a landscape perspective. There's a lot going on in their universe right now that affects our region with the Long Bridge construction in particular and the impacts that has on rail service. So I know a lot of folks that rely on that to get to work and do other types of travel are impacted right now by the change in the Amtrak schedules and things like that. So that's something that I know she's knee deep in. And then in addition to that, a number of different freight and rail related activity across the state.
With Martha, the DRPT has a daily newsletter
They do.
that comes out, and that we had 2 articles from New Kent yesterday, and
About the service.
about microtransit.
Nice.
And it's interesting to go through, and all of a sudden there, you see an article about yourself or Richmond or someplace else. And it's a good thing to come up every day. After BizSense, then this comes up, and then you go through those.
It's a daily digest that
Yep.
scrubs media outlets across the Commonwealth and
Correct.
reports a really nice list of coverage that's occurred. So it is a great resource to subscribe to be able to see what sort of transit related across the region or, rail transit related across the region, or I'm sorry, the Commonwealth.
Much better.
I was, that Long Bridge situation, I don't know, I mean, it's closed from like 8 AM until 1 PM or something every day because they don't allow nighttime work in their neighborhood. It's just the most bizarre thing. I mean, how are they managing those? Cause I know they talked about doing buses to get people across. Is that?
There's bus service, I know, that have picked up at least, I think, 2 lines in Hampton Roads to be able to connect. And then there's also some bus service that's connecting here, and it picks up in a heavier volume once you get at Fredericksburg and north. And they're leveraging through VRE and Amtrak, they're trying to create as many alternatives.
It seems like such a bizarre, like an antiquated, like construction,
Yeah.
Say that they're not allowing them to work during or at night when it would make, I mean, there's not even very much residential around there. I mean, it's just.
Somebody had a proffer somewhere.
Yeah, it's got.
Yeah, the construction schedule is an interesting one. There are some pretty, as I recall, when DJ was talking about it last time when we were in a meeting, that you put these performance incentives in with the construction, and so they're there, but they also have that additional limitation of the hours that they're permitted to work. And I think part of it is part of the local permitting process, and part of it was the surrounding neighborhoods. And so, yeah, she will be the expert on those things far better than I. And then finally, in my section with section D, we've got that self-certification. So again, this is an administrative activity to certify that we are compliant with our air quality conformity, non-discrimination, and other regulations required. And that's a companion certification for the adoption of the TIP that you're requested to approve in section C2. Unified Planning Work Program and that we discussed this morning, and then the election of officers are the last two action items on the agenda. Recognizing the volume of this agenda, I'll just note, we talked this through with Chair Rogish as well. We're essentially packing 3 meetings into one. So that's a little bit why it's such a big agenda. We didn't have that meeting earlier in April. We were trying to avoid the conflict with the spring break, the conflict with the intercity visit. And so just trying to kind of navigate that, and you don't meet again until July. So it's a little bit of like an exchange there. But we have asked our partner agencies to be mindful of the time. And if there's really not something that needs to be verbalized, maybe they could just send us an email and we'll shoot it out to you all, updates that way. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
We have a Special Olympics event in Hanover. So I may have to, I'll be mindful of quorums and all of that. I just wanted to let you know.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. I do think we will have a quorum. So, but yeah, if you have any comments or thoughts, then please let us know early in the process. So, thank you. Okay, with that, any other questions from the executive board? Comments? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.